think one player who's taking a lot of heat is Rasmus Højlund.
Scored just 2 Premier League goals in 18 appearances this season, although he does have 5 in the Europa League.
He has played a handful of seasons in Austria with Sturm Graz, then he's gone to Atalanta and played about 1,800 minutes in a top 5 league. Then he moves to Manchester United, where the pressure is incredible on the number 9, and he enters a team that isn't settled.
And they're asking, recently turned 22 guy who's out of form, can you go and score us a goal? And as you say, confidence is low.
To ask him to do this, given his lack of experience and the price tag that was attached to him, yeah, of course it's going to take a little bit of time. He's a young man, and he's still finding his feet in football, let alone at the top level.
At 21, 22 that he is now, you don't know your body, you don't know the game, you're learning. Everyone thinks that you're all going to be Messi without it. It doesn't work like that. He needs coaching, he needs help.
And I think we've seen more accomplished players crumble under the pressure of the weight of the shirt, but I do think he doesn't help himself at times. I think he has got into his own head, and I think there's times where he lets himself down in doing the very basics of a striker.
He is not the problem, he is a symptom of a major problem at United, which is a total lack of attacking identity.
That's the problem for Manchester United. Every player that's signed there in the last 10 years has struggled, and for young players it's difficult.
Believe it or not, Hojlund is United's 3rd most expensive transfer of the last 5 years. And still, I never managed to understand the hype around him. Over 70 million for a player who only scored 10 top 5 league goals before his arrival. It's beyond me. I mean, that makes €7 million for every top 5 league goal he scored in his career at Atlanta. And before we move on to breaking down his price tag, let me give you another stat to blow your mind. Against Forest, Hojlund entered the pitch in the second half and not only failed to contribute in any positive way to the team, but registered just 1 block shot during his cameo, had only 16 touches and lost possession 3 times. Harry Maguire accumulated more XG in added time against Nottingham Forest than Rasmus Højlund has in his last 15 appearances. Let that sink in. It's obvious that United have always had a problem with overpaying, but Hojlund is probably the most striking case in the last 5 to 10 years. Let's take another player with a high price tag. Antony for 95 million, for example. Yes, this was another time when United overpaid, but you could argue that the Brazilian justified it more than Hojlund with his performances for Ajax. In the last 2 seasons prior to his arrival at Old Trafford, Antony outscored Hojlund in both of them. All in all, in Hojlund's only season in Atlanta, he finished with 12 goal contributions in 34 games in all competitions. Antony, in only his last season in the Eredivisie, scored 12 and assisted 10 goals in 33 games. A huge difference. Of course, this is not to say that Hojlund is entirely to blame. No, it's quite the opposite. It's obvious that the Dane has the qualities, but the stats and the way he's used on the pitch are definitely not helping him. So let's take a closer look at him and analyse his overall profile. So the first common perception that people have about Hojlund is that he is a typical number 9. Well, a big mistake. Yes, he's 191 centimetres tall, has the ability to hold up the play, win aerial duels, but that don't mean he's a poacher who waits in the box to tap in. No, Hojlund thrives when he runs into space, gets the ball behind the defence and finds himself one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And I'll demonstrate this with some clips from his time at Atlanta, when Gianpiero Gasperini got the most out of his qualities. For example, this goal against Salernitana. Hojlund steals the ball, runs into space and curls it perfectly into the far corner. Literally the perfect example of his abilities. Because when people see a striker that high, they immediately label him a poacher. Or this assist against Cremonese. He won the ground duel against the defender, managed to win the one-on-one on the flank, and delivered a brilliantly sharp cross into the box for Jeremy Boga to tap it into the net. Of course, even though he finished the season with 10 goals for Atlanta, he missed a lot of chances. But realistically, that means 2 things. Firstly, that his finishing is not world class, something we already know. But secondly, that he is adaptable enough and also has a spectacular understanding of how and where to position himself in attack, so that he might be able to win the ball, fight with the defender, and then either finish the attack himself or create it for someone else. So, all in all, this was Rasmus Højlund. showing off his biggest strengths at Atlanta. But now to the more important question. Why is he unable to replicate that performance for Man United? Well, the first obvious reason is relatively straightforward. He's just not being used properly by Ruben Amorim. As we understood, Hojlund does his best when receives the ball in the empty space and has the opportunity to use his speed and physicality. And to be perfectly honest with you, out of Hojlund's 8 goals this season, only 1 of them come from such a position, where he has acres of space to run into and finish it on his own. And that was actually his last goal for the Red Devils against Leicester at King Power Stadium. So the conclusion of this is that instead of allowing him to go in such positions more often, Amorim deploys him in the so-called target man role, which limits Hojlund from moving freely across the whole attack in front. That said, it's fair to say that Hojlund can sometimes be seen receiving close to the flank and getting involved in the play, but his lack of creativity, especially against teams sitting in a low block, makes this move useless. One thing that has been noticeable in Man United's recent games since the arrival of Amorim, and especially since the injury to Amad Diallo, is the fact that Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund, 2 players with similar qualities, have been playing together at the same time. The Dutchman's arrival in the summer was surprising after Højlund's introduction a year earlier, but the strategy of playing them together is questionable, to say the least. I mean, it definitely works from time to time, but while there is a logic to such a tactic, especially with an elite player like Bruno Fernandes behind him, it seems like Amorim only uses it because he is obliged to play them both at the same time, not because his philosophy demands it. He is simply playing with the best he can, and surprise surprise, it seems that these 2 are actually his only attackers after the withdrawal of Antony and Rashford and the injury to Amad Diallo. So first, is he not properly used? What about reason number 2? Well, according to FOTMob, Højlund's reduced goal tally is in line with a significant drop in shooting opportunities. Under Amorim's system, the team has struggled to create chances, which has had a direct impact on his effectiveness. In particular, he has managed just 21 shots in the Premier League since the start of the season. I don't know about you, but I just can't believe this. For comparison, a player who is literally renowned for touching the ball very rarely during the match, Erling Hojlund, has 102 shots. And to put these figures into perspective, let's look at where Hojlund ranks in the Man United squad in terms of shots per 90. He is not in the top 3, not even in the top 5. Yeah, Hojlund is 6th in the whole team when it comes to shots per 90 in the Prem. We're talking about Man United starting number 9, who has played almost every game since September. But as we said at the beginning, Hojlund is the last man to blame here, and Amorim admitted as much about a month ago, ahead of the home game against Ipswich. We as a team aren't helping Rasmus. We don't create a lot of chances, we have a lack of threat, and you can feel it in the games. I think Rasmus has a lot of potential. Another area in which Højlund's level has dropped is his involvement in attacking play. The Dane averages 4.1 touches in the opposition's box per 90 minutes, which is significantly lower than top strikers such as Erling Hojlund, who average 7.1 touches. This drop suggests a reduced presence in key attacking areas, which has a knock-on effect on Man United's attacking returns. And while we're on the subject, let's talk about it. Many focus on defence as Man United's worst area, but I completely disagree. Look at the Premier League table. Man United have the 6th worst attack in the league, with the Red Devils having scored 37 goals since the start of the season. The really worrying thing, however, is that United have scored more than 3 goals in a game only 4 times. Twice in the early rounds of the League Cup, against Barnsley and Leicester City, then against Everton in Amorim's first Premier League win, and the victory against Real Sociedad in the Europa League. And that is simply not enough for a team of United stature. I'd understand it if they had no money to spend in the transfer market, but no, they pulled out the big bucks every summer and still can't get it right. In fact, it looks like the more they spend, the worse it gets. And what about you? What should be the first measurement if Man United break their miserable record from last season, finishing lower than 8th in the Premier League? And also, do you still have trust in Hojlund? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed that one, please consider subscribing to the channel or check out our latest upload, in which we talked about Arsenal's new sensation, Miles Lewis-Skelly. Catch ya in the next one.